Hey, hey, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Just that, right? So you guys, I am here with the OOLA guys. I am bringing the video up in front of myself as well. This is what I think people have been waiting for the past 3 weeks. So if you've been watching every week with our trainings and such for the past 3 weeks, or the past two, now the third week, you've been seeing this build up to, okay, so here's how we reduce debt, and here's how you can start to invest. Now we've gotten to the pinnacle point of like, this is going to be like fly on the wall of how people are coached, how the uber wealthy are coached in their finances. Okay, you guys. So this is something that you may be sitting there and you may be like, okay, well, this doesn't necessarily apply to me right now, but I'm going to say that doesn't mean it won't ever apply to you. And it's so much better to know this stuff now before you get into it than it is to like fall into wealth and all of a sudden now really know what to do with all of your money, right? So let's get in that mindset. Let's put on so remember when we were in school, like little kids school, and they said, put on your thinking caps, right? Let's put on our millionaire caps right now, and let's just move into this space as though we already are. And then let's see what we would do, and let's learn those things so they can just get on like a cellular level. We can remember them. Our body can remember them. Okay, you guys. So I just talked a lot. Here's the OOLA guys. Welcome.
Hey, this is great. It's week 3. So just to recap, if you guys are just joining this one because it got your attention because we're talking about what it's like to be uber wealthy, I would really go back and watch the first 2, because the first one we talked about the green gap, which is a path to becoming debt free. Because what we notice in this is people are stressed about money. Usually when you bring up the topic of money, people aren't thinking about being wealthy. They're actually trying to figure out how to pay the bills. So the first thing is to clean up the mess by getting the debts taken care of using the green gap. That was week 1. And then last week we talked about middle finger money, which is essentially creating something you talk about all the time, which is amazing. It's talking about multiple streams of income, and that actually creates security. So if something happens like COVID or a furlough or a health crisis, you're not one-dimensional in the sources of income. This is the new economy, by the way, the gig economy, is you have multiple sources of income. So if something changes, your family is still secure. So you've removed the stress by paying off the debt with the green gap. You've become secure by creating multiple streams of income, but then it's what's next. Now, this is what the uber wealthy that we coach, this is how we sit down and coach them. And we thought it'd be fun to sit down with you guys, because as we talk about OOLA, which is life balance in the 7 key areas, this is where we are in the framework, by the way, for those of you who are coaches or being certified to become OOLA coaches, is there are 7 key areas of life: fitness, finance, family, field, which is your career, faith, friends, and fun. We're talking specifically about finance. And then we're breaking that down now and talking about 2 weeks ago, getting out of debt, last week, creating multiple sources of income, and now becoming wealthy. That's where we are. And what we notice in the category as we collect dreams and talk to people and coach people, in this category of money, we always encourage people to dream big. Like, write down your dream, tear it up, and dream bigger. And then for some reason in the category of finance, I don't know if it's self-sabotage, like people don't feel like they're worth it, or they think it's some old money memory that money is evil and greedy people have money. They don't understand. So people dream safe in this category. When we say, what would you like for your finances? And they go, I just would like to be able to pay my bills and maybe take a trip. And like, no, really, if you could, what about giving? And what about your grandkids' education? And what about a dream home? And it really is hard to open up people's mind. And because they come from a certain place, and that's just not who we are, and that's not who we really have to push people to dream big in this category. So right off the bat, as you talk about changing your mindset, just be open-minded to the good things that you can do with money, because money itself is neutral. Money is just simply an amplifier. So if I give a good, kind, generous, responsible person multiple millions of dollars, they will be good, kind, and generous with their money. If you take someone who's greedy, prone to addictions, selfish, they will just be more of that. So right off the bat, you have to go, money is not good or evil, it's neutral. What you do with the money is going to amplify who you are. So you got to get good with who you are first and say, okay, who am I? Just honestly. And once you're open to that, like I'm a decent human, I'm going to do good things with the money, and you're going to enjoy some of it too. That's a big piece of it. But also then you can open up your mind to what's possible. And there's nothing wrong with becoming uber wealthy. Some of the kindest, most generous people I know doing great things in the world are ultra rich. But so that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to do that. I know Dave was going to talk a little bit about the mindset piece of this because it's so important regarding wealth.
Well, I just look at this and I've seen Dr. Troy talk to many people and coach many people about being uber wealthy. Also, we've seen people that weren't uber wealthy and just in the 7 years of OOLA become uber wealthy, find us multiple streams of income that were making them $50,000 to $100,000 a month or more, made them into the millions. And then they were really lost on what to do. So number one, the biggest thing is open your mind right now. If you aren't uber wealthy, what does uber wealthy look like for you? What does it even feel like? At OOLA Plus, we're always talking about dream big, do this, write it down, tear it up like this, and then dream bigger. Because the biggest thing you need to do is you need to have that lighthouse dream in the distance of what that looks like. And then you need to backtrack and look at what are called OOLA blockers, which would be something we could maybe talk about in later ed trainings or in the mastermind group. But then what's going to get in the way of you going from where you are today to being uber wealthy? And where that might be is it might be stuck in fear. Like, what are you going to do? Like, I don't even know what to do with this money. I don't know how to invest. I don't have the knowledge around money. So it might be fear. It might be guilt. Like, my family doesn't have money. We didn't grow up with money. Money is the root of all evil. That's what I learned when I grew up. Like, oh, people that are rich are bad people. They're greedy people. So you got to start peeling away some of that mindset piece to being open towards that. And Dr. Troy said it perfectly, going all the way back to the first training we did with Martha on this page was first green gap. Like, get rid of debt, start investing for your future, start bumping your lifestyle. That's amazing. Then let's start pulling in these multiple streams of income. And I know a lot of people are doing home-based businesses, becoming OOLA certified life coaches, working on online courses. A lot of the stuff that Martha teaches, you're bringing that in for multiple streams of income. But there's a lot of you that in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years, you have that opportunity, or you're going to hit that, where all of a sudden you're bringing in more wealth than you know what to do with. Now, as I've seen Dr. Troy coach people, and I end up coaching a lot of people on working on your marriage and not your divorce, and what to do is you found yourself single or broke. That's what I work with, a lot of those people. And I'm the fly in the wall as Dr. Troy are coaching people who are million, 100 million, billionaires. I've heard him coach multiple billionaires. And it's interesting, their mindset around money, that is such an important factor, but also the mistakes they start making once they're uber wealthy. And a lot of this lives in what we call self-sabotage. So you're sitting there right now, maybe you're making a great living, maybe you're just struggling to get by, maybe you're making more than you really know what to do with, so you're applying the green gap. But there comes that time down the road in your career, in your life, where all of a sudden you start making a lot more money than you knew you were going to make. And this is where people start making bad mistakes. They start self-sabotaging because they don't think they're worthy of this money. They don't think that, they start to self-sabotage because they don't have the self-worth, the self-esteem, the self-confidence to be that person that's getting money. Always think right here that what Dr. Troy said, money is purely an amplifier of who you are. We have seen billionaires destroy their lives. We've seen billionaires save millions of people's lives through poverty, through programs, through helping others and reaching back. I know the people that follow Martha's group, the people that follow OOLA, I would say 95%, and I don't know the exact number, are great-hearted people who really want to make a difference in the world, want to make a difference in their family, leave a great legacy, help people, donate to their church, their community, donate to orphanages, helping people. And I've seen that with a lot of the rich people that I know. That's what's changed my mindset to money, is I have been introduced to, I've hung out with, and I've seen a lot of people that are making millions and millions of dollars. And what I see is that they're helping people at a bigger scale than they could if they weren't making that money. So this is the one thing, is like, who you are at your core. By pouring money into that, you can amplify that, help more people. So the big part is just being open to that. And then again, like what I've said the last couple of trainings, this is where you take out a pen and a paper, because Dr. Troy is going to give you some steps, some stuff that you need to be doing and start preparing for when that comes. If it's in, again, 6 months or 6 years, when that time comes where you have more wealth, more money coming in than you know what to do with, you can look back at these notes and apply it in the right way. number one, don't self-sabotage. Number one, don't feel guilty. And number three, have a plan, which is part of what Dr. Croy is going to talk about. Have a plan on what you're going to do with it. And yeah, don't be buying Iraqi dinar and, you know, investing in stupid stuff. And he'll talk some about that today. But that's how you can work hard for your money and then also start having your money start working for you.
Oh.
So as we coach people, you've brought this a totally different direction, which is actually really, really good, because you see people who come into money, you know, they've paid off their debt, they've started the multiple streams of income. Those multiple streams of income, after a lot of effort and a lot of focus, they start to reap fruit. Like there's money coming from these multiple streams. Some people are so afraid of the topic of money that they're happy to think how hard you work for this money. Think of the work to pay off debt, the work to start this new business, the work to to pay taxes on it, to hold some money in your hand. And I can't tell you how many people we've coached who just like want to hand it to someone else because they sit next to them at church and say, manage my money for me because I don't want to do it. And without even understanding what their money's doing, where it's going, the return on their investment. And then they come back and go, it's gone. And that's so sad to watch when I know the path that people follow to pay off debt, to build multiple streams of income, and finally have enough money left over to build legacy wealth. What Dave talked about is, if I know you're going through the coaching certification, a number of your members and fans are, we're talking now in an area of blockers, which I didn't know we were going to talk about, but I think it's really valuable in the topic of money, where people understand what they want for their in the category of finance. They set some goals and dreams for that, but blockers are the things that we run into why goals don't happen. And sometimes you don't feel worth it. Sometimes you're feeling guilty because you're doing well and your sister or your brother are struggling with money. And, you know, what do you do? How do you navigate that? But another one is envy. So the framework teaches you the 7 common blockers that we run into as we pursue our goals and dreams. And when I was young, my dad was working 3 and sometimes 4 jobs to provide for 4 kids. My brother was 8 years older than me. I went for a run with him today. We have cabins on the same lake in northern Minnesota in the summer. We're best friends. So we're still those close, but he was 8 years older than me. And since my dad was working all the time, he was tasked to take care of me, raise me, you know, just because my dad was working to provide. I remember when I was in late junior high school, and he was out in the world, you know, doing life. And he was living OOLA before OOLA was a thing. He got married, had kids, started a business, had a house and bought a cabin, bought a place in California, in shape. Like he was like living these principles. And at the very time I went through high school and went into college, I gotta think about this. I was 40 pounds heavier than I am today. I had a mullet. I had boobs. I drove a Pinto. And I mean, I was in student loan debt, and my brother's he's crushing it. Like he's just crushing it. Like he was OOLA. I was anti-OOLA. But I never once looked at him and was I envious. And instead, I used it for inspiration to what's possible. And I think if people watching this are in a tough place, which a lot of people are with money, rather than looking at the people around you doing better than you and saying, how come they have and I don't, which is a scarcity mindset, what can you learn from them as far as the best practices of how to get where they're going? Because you know someone, you should be grateful that you have someone in your ring of influence that you can lean against and go, I want to know what you know. What can you teach me? And then it turns into inspiration. Ironically, I don't even know if Dave knows this story. So my brother's doing great financially. We went on a trip and we were talking to some people about this topic of money, and the topic of cars came up, and my brother's a car guy. We were talking about cars, and all of a sudden in the room, there were about 8 guys, my brother and I, 2 of them, and they switched to planes. They said, I like a 757. I like it. And we just shut up. Like there's always someone doing better than you. But at the same time, I never got jealous. I'm like, dude, how do you own a plane? Like, how is that even possible? Like, tell me more. I didn't go like, he's got a plane. So it's a different mindset. And when you really open up your mind to what's possible, and not just the materialistic things you can do with money, but the generosity and quite frankly, the freedom to be on. We talked last week about middle finger money. You want to talk about middle finger money? I mean, you don't have to do deals you don't want to do. You don't have to show up to things you don't have to show up. You can say no. It buys you the opportunity to say no. So we're going to talk about, as if we're talking to the uber wealthy, and they said, you know what? I found myself in this place of abundance. I found myself debt free, which is step 1. I found myself with multiple streams of income. So I'm secure now, but now I'm actually holding some in my hand. And what would you recommend as my coach? What would you recommend for me to do with that? And there are 3 things all written down on a note card. The first one is paper, and that is essentially mutual funds. If you talk to people and you want to talk about high return on investment, but still being smart and secure, you'll always hear the word diversification. So going back to the green gap, the green gap talks about apportioning your income 45% to investment, 45% to debt reduction, 10% for fun. Well, if you don't have any debt, you now have 90% of that gap to invest. And this is when you dump it in this wealth formula, you divide it into these 3 categories. The first one is mutual funds. Even a simple S&P index fund, I'm not telling you where to put your money. I want you to talk to a professional about that. But when you're looking at this, understand the fees, like the fees to manage your account, the fees to buy, the fees to sell, the fees to hold. And I would automate it. Like, this is the part for me personally, what I do is I automate this. I don't even know what's happening. Money comes in, money goes out, and it just goes to paper. Next is something that's near and dear to your crew, and that's businesses. Create businesses that produce income. Some of them will be active and involve you. Some could be passive or residual. But create income producing businesses that you have passion about, because businesses, as you know, have ups and downs and challenges. Find something. At this point, you've earned the right to not do work you hate. So pick businesses that you have a heart for, a passion for, and build them in a way and learn how to monetize them. So if you said, hey, what am I most passionate about? And then how can I monetize that as a business? So number 1 is paper, which is mutual funds, S&P index funds, whatever. Diversification, easy. Second one is build businesses, plural, that have something linked to something passionate with you that create an income for you. And the third one is investment real estate. And I'm telling you these because these are the things that I've done in my own life. I actually enjoy real estate, but the beautiful thing about real estate is you get, and I don't want to get like super weird technical, but you get capital appreciation on the property. Like, the property goes up in value and rent goes up. You know, everyone has that argument, like, what about inflation? Well, rent goes up with inflation. So you have incoming rent, and then your property goes up in value too. So if you ever need a chunk of cash, you could sell a unit, a real estate unit. And it's just and it creates that residual stream. So now you think about this and you think, okay, I have paper that produces dividends. That's a monthly stream. And I have businesses that produce profits. That's a monthly stream. And I have investment real estate that produces rent. That's a monthly stream. Now you have this beautiful thing of more money coming in than you can spend in a month. And that is complete freedom. And it can be that at this point, you get to decide what you want to do with it. It's like legacy wealth. It can be passed on to generation to generation. You can purchase experiences for you and your family that'll be memorable forever. You can fund your grandkids' education so your kids don't have to worry about how they're going to do that. That's when it really gets fun. But it's actually not that complicated. So if you think of what I just did there, the automated part of the paper is just an auto draft. Businesses you should want to do that anyway, because you're just passionate about that. You found the business and you just wake up thinking about it, go to bed thinking about it, and work on it all day just because you don't watch a clock anymore. You're doing your dream job, creating a business that creates an income. And real estate is really a purchase. It's just a one-time purchase. And sometimes you can have a property manager depending on if you get multiple units. But at the same time, if it's just a local duplex in your community, it creates income. And this is what people do. I think a lot of people believe that there are sophisticated strategies for multi-millionaires, decamillionaires and above, that they have these secret group of people that set up these crazy business structures that yield them things only available to them. I can't count how many people I've coached and talked to over the years. They're normal human beings who have worked really hard to pay off their debt, who've worked really hard to build businesses and multiple streams of income, who now finally hold enough money in their hand that they can invest it in a way that will yield fruit for generations. And they don't do complicated things. They do simple things consistently over time. It's not these big sophisticated structures. It's I'm going to get some real estate that produces rent. I'm going to buy some mutual funds that produce dividends, and I'm going to run and own businesses that produce income. And then you put all that in a pot, and then you continue to reinvest that. That's how people. The best thing about this, especially like if you're like me and you're like Dave and you're like most people I know, it's first generation stuff. They're not trust fund kids. They didn't get a bunch of money. They bootstrapped it. And the beautiful thing about that is you can break that cycle. This is probably the most valuable asset you can leave the next generation, is how to manage money well. And you don't have to be broke. And it's not the legacy of your family because you came from here or did this, or you can do it differently. Because most of the people that we deal with in coach are regular, hardworking people that just want to remove the stress of money from their family.
Yeah. When you said, first of all, I just need to take a moment because whenever you said like the biggest thing that you can leave for your kids or something, that's how I took it in anyway, is teaching them how to handle money, how to manage money, how to manage wealth, right? I also want to like, I'm going to rewind about 15 minutes and then piggyback on something. And that was, if you followed me for longer than 2 minutes, you know how much I dig neuroplasticity, right? And the self-talk and how we essentially can rewire our brains. If you look at somebody who is wealthy and doing really well, we're going back to sort of like that jealousy, the mullet and the boobs, right? We're going back to that part. That was, you painted such a picture right there. So, I mean, people even repeated it in the
think about that. I had a mullet and I had boobs and I had a Pinto that really started on fire. So here's a guy broke on the side of the road with his Pinto on fire with mullet boobs, and no one's stopping to help that guy. I promise you, no one's stopping to help that guy.
I've seen. It's true. I've seen pictures. It's true.
Oh man, it's documented.
I wish I had a picture right now just to hold it up.
I'm picturing Joe Dirt with boobs.
Exactly.
You said I want to go back 15 minutes to the mullet boobs. I'm like, I don't want to go back to that.
I don't want to go back to that, right? Well, we're just gonna for a hot second for these guys,
gotcha.
okay? But like, what he was doing was he didn't think badly of his brother for doing better or anything like that, because you guys, your brain doesn't know the difference, right? It doesn't know the difference between what you believe about somebody else and what you believe about yourself, okay? That is so fundamentally life-changing to understand that thing, I just spat out the side of my mouth, that thing that you believe about someone else, your brain thinks you believe it about yourself, okay? That is where you see people that talk smack, or they're the 5% or whatever, and they sort of wallow in this mucky muck, right? And then they stay there. And the reason that they stay there is because their brain has found that is their home, that if that's what you're going to talk about, that's what you're going to be. Right? So if you're looking at somebody else and you're envious or you're jealous or whatever, you think they're bad because they're doing better, then that's your brain is going to say like, well, you can't ever be there, because if you were to be there, that's not sustainable because that's bad. Right? So that's where like we have to just mind our mind. We have to mind our business, but we have to pay attention to how we're thinking and what we believe. And don't let just some sort of like sloppy, chaotic thinking, like just not paying attention to where your mind is going and thinking like some, just sloppy things about people. If you think that stuff about people, you're not going to ever be able to be it yourself. Okay. So if you talk smack about somebody that makes a bunch of money because they make a bunch of money and don't ever worry about money because you won't have it. Like that's just, it's just a thing. Sorry.
Yeah, I think you said a couple of words that it's important to understand. When we're talking about, I think blockers, which we ended up talking about, which is in the OOLA framework, I think it's so key in the topic of money, but you mentioned jealousy and envy. And when we teach this and coach this topic, it's important to differentiate the two terms. So jealousy is completely normal human emotion. If you started a home-based business and at the same time as your friend, and she ranks up instantly and you're barely getting started, it's very normal for you to go, wait a minute, I've been working just as hard, and how come, that's jealousy, as long as it passes through you. And so jealousy is simply wanting what someone else has. If they have a nicer house, if they have a better dude, whatever, it's like, for a moment, it's like, it's normal to let that pass through you. The blocker part and the dark part is envy. And that's where not only do you want what they have, but you don't want them to have it. And then talking about neuroplasticity and talking about what your brain says, is that doesn't hurt them, by the way. That hurts you. If your brain is saying, I don't want them to have that, why wouldn't you want good for other people? Why wouldn't you want good for the community and the world? Because there's going to be this ripple effect of that. Why would it, when my brother was succeeding, or we're sitting in a room and we're talking about cars and they're talking about jets, why wouldn't you? That's the flipping most amazing thing I've ever heard. I want to know how that happens. And that opens you up to it. So there's jealousy. Everyone feels it. Normal, as long as it just passes through. But where it gets dark and where it's going to get in the way of you achieving your financial goals and dreams is when it leans into and grows into envy, because that's the part that doesn't hurt them, it hurts you.
Yeah, agreed. Cool. Let me see. That's good. That was a good addition. Let me see what people are saying. Someone said something about OOLA for kids. Is that a thing? I'm sure you've thought about it.
Yeah, we get suggestions every day about, you should make OOLA for this, OOLA for that. We have a 3-book publishing deal with the original publisher, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and we just completed that with our 3rd book. But so we don't know what our next book. We actually believe, we've fairly committed, it's going to be on the green gap about getting people out of debt, because it's such a, you talk about everyone has a personal passion, or I just mentioned about doing a business you love. If our legacy, my legacy, our legacy, whatever, one of them could be changing mindsets around money and teaching this next generation to delay gratification and get smart with money, like increasing their financial IQ, because we're just medicating with material things on things we can't afford. And every time we charge something, it's like grabbing like a day from your future, or a week from your future, or a month from your future. And that bill will come due. So we're just mindlessly signing for student loans, then mindlessly graduating and getting a car, mindlessly getting a house, and with no one ever putting that on paper and understanding what that means. And you talk about starting your life off in a hole. What we talked about the last 2 weeks is where we coach the majority of the people, is getting out of debt on this topic of finance, getting out of debt and creating multiple streams of income so you have security. You're basically fixing a problem that you weren't born with debt. You know, you started with 0, you created that problem, and you spend most of your life managing that problem. And we see it with health issues too. I did it, I put on 40 pounds. I had to spend 10 years losing the 40 pounds. So you end up wasting a lot of your time managing a problem that you created. And all we're saying is, wouldn't it be nice if imagine the next generation, like my kids, to see a credit card and they think it's like an illicit drug, like, oh my gosh, they have a credit card, like, can we hang out with them? I'm like, it's very, because we don't do it. We just don't do it. And it's one of those things I want to pass on to my kids. Like, we will save for a car and buy a car. We will save for college and go to college. It might be a community college and not on the beach in San Diego, but it's what whatever that is. And I just think that is the most beautiful thing when we talk about legacy wealth and leaving someone just this trust fund. I'm more excited about leaving people with financial values and learning and an understanding about money, because that will live on for generations. The problem is we're carrying old DNA and old baggage from our parents and grandparents many times that just did the best they knew how, but we picked up some of these things, some of them good and some of them bad. So the point of this is just, let's shed the stuff that doesn't work, grab the stuff that's good, and change it for the next generation.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. Heck yes. My goodness. Susan Burt said, the mindset of, oh my word, I just got caught in a cord. Hang on. The mindset of never having enough money and settling because that's all you know, how to get past that.
Yeah, I would use a proximity rule. I would start surrounding yourself with not people who see the world as scarce, but people who see the opportunity as abundance. There's a saying that we quote often that says, there's opportunity found in every day, including COVID days, but it'll only be found by those who actively seek it. So if you sit there and just wake up and sit in your own mess, and I'm not being mean, I'm just trying to be like straight, you're going to easily find people who will rally around you and validate your mess, and it won't change. But if you want to say like, they're not, I can assure you that everyone who you see as financially successful has had their messes. 100% promise. They've had their struggles. Everyone's got their story. Everyone has their story of how they struggle with money. And you say, okay, tell me about your struggle and tell me how you overcame it. And what would you suggest for me? So, and you'd be surprised that we're sitting here like offering amazing information, hopefully, that you can use that we coach people on, because we really want people to get good with money. People who figured this out want to help other people, because it's not the money part, it's what it adds to their life. OOLA is about balance in life. OOLA is not a financial thing. It's 1/7 of what we talk about. But if you get your money right, it's more than getting your money right, because it decompresses the stress on a marriage or a relationship. It decompresses on your relationship with your kids, your ability to buy healthy food versus junk food. I mean, if you really ripple it down, it has a global effect on your life. And I think the advice for her would be, look who you're surrounding yourself with. Are they validating and just kind of hugging you and saying it'll, but is that changing anything? And why don't you actively seek people who will challenge you to move out of the mess and move forward?
The one thing, if I can add to that a little bit, Martha, the one thing too is actually take what we've talked about the last 3 weeks, or what we even talk about in the certification, or what we have in our books, or what Martha teaches, and actually put together your own plan that you can follow. But who you surround yourself with is such an important part of that, but also have your plan, because I have been around people that are like, what do you mean you're not gonna have credit cards for the airline points? And you're thinking about this small stuff, or you're watching TV and it's saying no interest for 6 months. You're like, why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I lease a car? But once you're committed to a strategy, not from people who are trying to sell you something, or your neighbor who's broke, but you're committed to a strategy and a plan by someone who has what you want, not out of envy, but out of a little bit of jealousy. Like, I want that. I want freedom of schedule. I want the car paid for. I want to be able to do what I want to do with money. I want to be able to give back. I want that. Then follow what they do. And what Troy is telling you, and what we've talked about in the last 3 trainings up until this point, that's what all the wealthy people do, especially self-made wealthy people. They get rid of their debt. They start saving for their future. They create multiple streams of income. They put it in paper. They put it in real estate. They put it in businesses, and they create this freedom for their life. And that's what they do. So number one is start to put together a plan for your life that you're going to commit to. And when you say, I'm going to commit to being debt free, I'm going to commit to this green gap, and your husband or your wife says, hey, why don't we just put that trip on a credit card? It's good for points. It's good for our air miles or whatever it is. It's debt. It's no interest. You can say, no, it's not part of my plan. We're going to save for a year. We're going to pay cash for that trip, or cash for that car, or we're going to invest in our businesses or in our future. So you have to have that plan that you're like written down like that. Like, this is what I'm going to do for my financial future. That's what we talk about in OOLA so much, is know where you are in all 7 areas. But if we're talking in the framework, we're talking finance, know where you are in finance, debt, giving, saving, income, budget, know where you are, know where you want to go. What's the big dream? What are your goals? And then what are the steps you're going to take every day? And if you lock that into these steps you take every day, and it's moving you in the direction of financial freedom and uber wealth, and where you want your life to go, how you're going to give back, how you're going to make a difference, then you stay on your course, but also then surround yourself with people that are going to support that. Surround yourself with people, and also bring in people you can learn from. I have seen way too many times, we're joking around about people who talk to me are talking about, they've just gone through a divorce, or, they lost everything. I have seen people talk to Troy because they just got an inheritance of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then a year later, they're talking to me because they're broke. And they're like, I didn't listen.
Hey, that wasn't my advice, by the way. That was, they didn't listen.
Yeah,
right.
No,
they didn't listen. Yes.
Yeah, and literally when I make fun of the Iraqi dinar, that was a story. That was like, that happened with someone who goes, I inherited all this money. What do I do? And Troy's like,
and I showed them a path. I showed them a path to double their money every 7 years easily. And instead, there's some person that we pick on this. It's always that nice guy at church, right?
It was a church person.
I know, dude. I got this thing that only I know about. It's in Germany. I know the example you're talking about. And if you put your money here, man, he said you're going to get 9% to 11%. Oh man, I've doubled it. And people actually buy that. That's why actually I think it goes, this is a perfect spot to tell people also to have a coach, like a financial coach. It's like someone who just steps in. Like if you're spending $1 for a pack of gum, you don't call your coach. But if you get an inheritance of 300 grand, you need to call someone who doesn't have a dog in the fight, right? They don't get a commission off that. They don't get a yield because they're buying a fund from them. They're not a real estate person. They're just someone who advocates your best interest. And they look at your framework. They look at your OOLA framework and they say, this is the goal you set, is to become debt free and to have enough. And this move is not consistent with that thing you declared. So I'm gonna stand up as your coach and understand I may offend you, but I'm here to protect you from you. And this is a bad move. Like this is a bad move. And people pull back, like, and they don't always listen, but they usually do. Thank goodness. I mean, and then that's where a coach comes in handy, because even if you're trying to get out of debt, it's someone to keep you accountable. Because if you say, I want to be out of debt, or I want to get in shape, or and you're just left to you, I mean, we're like a wounded deer. We go to the path of least resistance, right? And we end up on the couch with Netflix and nothing changes. So having a coach saying, you know what, we worked on this, you want this. Well, there's going to be some action that's going to be required for you to become debt free. There's going to be some action required for you to build multiple streams of income. There's going to be some action required for you to become uber wealthy. And they keep you accountable to those action steps.
We waited 4 years to move down to Florida. We've been in Iowa for so long, and we waited even after everything was good and we could have moved. We waited an additional 4 years to come down here, and then we were finally like, okay, we're going. We're going down there right now. But it's that, what did you call it? You call it like deferred, what do you call
gratification?
it?
Deferred gratification.
Yeah. That's delayed, what it is.
Delayed.
You got delayed. Yeah. Delayed gratification. That's where you're like, you've got it, and you can technically do it, right? Like you can technically move down there. You may not have any other pennies, but you would be there. But that's not the kind of like experience you want, like in a moving situation. I'll just
this is what you're talking about too, is like, that's where you get super disciplined. Money's not emotional. Even though Florida, Iowa, I love Iowa. I'm from Minnesota, Dave's from North Dakota, so it's all kind of the same, right? It should be one country, those three. But like, I get that you want to move down there, but you have to have an emergency fund, and you have to be able to. One of the big mistakes we see people doing is they're so excited about the dream they've set financially that they plan it on tomorrow's dollars. They go, if my business grows 20%, and if that person signs up for this and they end up doing that, I'll be making X a month. I can afford the place in Florida. Never, ever, ever, ever get in your emergency fund. Step one, never, ever, ever, ever buy something based upon income that might come in.
Right.
You base it upon what you have, not what might happen. And then when that money comes in and it's sitting in your account like yours for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, getting money, by the way, if you're investing it, then you step back and go, okay, now we feel pretty solid. Like we feel now, because what you could do is you could dream about going to Florida forever. And if you do it on day one that it's possible, and the economy hiccups, you're moving back to Iowa quickly. And that turns a dream into a nightmare like that. So that's the fun thing about moving up financially, is whether it's the house, the car, the vacations, the giving, whatever it happens, the education for your kids, whatever it happens, it's exciting, but don't do it on money that might come in. Do it on money you're actually holding in your hand.
Yes. Oh my word. There's nothing more anxiety producing than making big money decisions and not having the money to make those decisions.
That would produce no anxiety in my life, because I just wouldn't do it. Like that. I mean, it's like you have the money or you don't. I mean, it's we all want. That's cool. Like we all, and the line I hate, which I know it's, people say it all the time, and it's probably not accurate, but when they say I deserve it because I work hard. My husband deserves it because he works hard. Of course you do. Every good human deserves everything. But in this category, in what we're talking about these last 3 weeks, the question is, do I deserve it? Because the answer would be yes, but can I afford it? And even if the answer is, even in this category, if someone goes, I can't afford it, I correct them and say, add a word. I can't afford it today.
Yeah, right.
So just add a word. Not I can't afford it ever. I just can't afford it today. But if I'm diligent, if I pay off my debt, if I build multiple streams of income, if I invest, there will be a day that I can afford it and more. Mm-hmm. But it's the language, how we talk. And, ironically, it's when life's the hardest. That's where people go, you know what? That's when they're struggling. That's when they do make a horrible financial decision, because I deserve a new car. It's just, and they go finance it for $0 down in this, and they don't understand. They just signed up for a 5-year commitment or a 7-year commitment, and it just goes down a dark path. So I'm grateful that there's a community like your community who's willing to unpack this and talk about it, not just to benefit their own life, but again, the passion to pour this information into the friends and also your kids, so that we can change this conversation. Because if you study money from the 1900s to now, we've changed as a culture. That's why we feel the world's becoming unbalanced, credit is so normal, and nobody has saved for their future. People are getting to 70. I talk to people who are 70 years old, and we dig into their finances to coach them through, and they have to work in a job they hate, and it hurts to get out of bed, and they have no other choice because Social Security doesn't cover their basic expenses. And some of those people are greeting at Walmart because they're actually just happy, but a lot of them are like, dude, I need a job. Like, I need a job because I didn't prepare. So having these conversations about delaying gratification, cleaning up your mess to pay off debt, building multiple streams of income, investing in like the uber wealthy, and then all of a sudden you wake up at 50, 55, 60, 65, and you go, I can do what I want to do. And you end up typically working then anyway, but you're doing something you're passionate about.
Exactly. First of all, I have a question for the people that are watching right now, and then I want to address a question that Susan asked because it's a good question. But for the people that are watching right now, in the comments, let me know, is this something that is attractive to you to be able, like the things that you're learning right now, is it attractive to you to be able to share this with other people and help them in their lives as well? Just tell me yes or no on that. And then let's move into another question here. So Susan asked, should we even use a credit card even if we pay it off monthly? I'm going to say I don't have a credit card. We can't even rent the nice enterprise cars because we don't have a credit card. Okay?
I don't have a credit card either. So this is that thing. I think it was Susan even asked earlier, just like do what other people are doing. I'm cool not renting the cool car because I have one in my garage. You know, you don't have to rent one. So like it's like I can't rent that cool car either in the exotic section of it. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I just walk right by, comfortable knowing that I don't have to pretend to be, because that's what that is. So I think it's a statement. And like when we talk about my kids, they see a credit card and they almost back away from it like it's the poison. Because we've learned that it's a slippery slope. It's so easy and so pain-free and so friction-free to just swipe that card, tap that card, do that thing. And I know, and I hear all the arguments all the time, well, I pay it off every month. You do now, but what happens if you get furloughed and what have you? And all of a sudden, hey, I have a $5,000 line of credit. You know what? This will get me. It's just a very slippery slope. So why play? I mean, why play that game? Debit cards work just the same. You can buy everything online. You can rent all the normal cars. You can travel. You can, so I haven't had a credit card in 10 years. By the way, my credit score is 0. Everyone's in love with their FICO score. Like I got an 820 and a 780. I'm like, mine's 0. It's been 0 for as long as I can remember, because I'm not borrowing money, because that causes stress in my marriage and stress for my family. Now, I know that there's that whole thing of cleaning up a mess and getting, that's all part of the process of being coached through this. But if you want to dream big of like, debit cards and credit score of 0 and paying cash for cars and paying cash for a mortgage. And if you really want to dream big, think of what that would feel like to not owe anybody anything. And think of what that would feel like to shop for your next car and just write a check. I mean, it's possible. Everyday people are doing it all the time, but what happens is you're seeing people at the end of their journey. You're not seeing them when they do the work to clean up their mess by using the green gap to become debt free, or what it was like to start these businesses and actually get them to the point where they're producing income. And you're looking at them when they're at the final chapter, and and then you become jealous or envious, and you're like, that's just, again, how did you get there? What are the things you did? Martha doesn't have a credit card. Troy doesn't have like maybe I don't need one if I want to be at a certain point. I think you can study people, and not people like pitching you their thing, just people who are where you want to be in whatever category. If it's a career, or even if it's a marriage, it's like someone who's happily married 45 years and you're 5 years in, go, what can I learn from you? That's how I've lived my life, as a quiet student, studying people who are doing it better than me. And there are a lot of them doing it, and saying, what can I learn from you? Because I want to do that thing you're doing like you're doing it.
You're like a Napoleon Hill, kind of. Like in his whole like the Think and Grow Rich, right? Like his whole concept behind that was that he basically was following people and finding out, he was getting to the lowest common denominator of what do these people all share, and then that's what the entire book is about. But
great book, because it comes back to mindset. It comes back to like they all believed that this was possible, and they all did the work to make it happen.
Yeah. So when I asked that question, we got a lot of yeses. I'm just going to say that. But then I'm going to go back to Megan asked a question that is some logistics. So I do want to get an answer there. Let me get back to the actual question. So do you have a percentage of income breakdown? So how much goes to investment? And then somebody else answered 45 investment, 45 debt. If you have it, 10% fund. And then Megan was like, but what percentage of your income is that? Because you can't spend 100% of your income on just debt and investment, et cetera.
So you guys got a good crowd. So if someone could go to YouTube and just type in OOLA green gap on YouTube and that'll break that down. So that 100% isn't 100%. What you do is there's 5 steps to identifying a green gap. One is like do a monthly budget because every month is different. Then you identify the gap, then you maximize the gap. So the gap is the difference between income and expenses, and you maximize. So if that's 1,000, you have 1,000 left after you've kind of increased your income and reduced your expenses. That 1,000 is the gap that you have something to do with. Most people spend that gap. They find the perfect thing that fits that gap, and it's usually the size of a purse or clothes or a restaurant. But instead of doing that, you say, I'm going to take that gap. I'm going to take 10% for fun, 45% to reduce debt, 45% to invest. And in fact, my brother and I were just talking about that on this run this morning because I was telling him that we were going to chat, and I couldn't have done, we're fans of Dave Ramsey because his dreams on the bus. He's a great guy doing amazing things, but I would have given up my 20s and early 30s with my kids at a key time in my life. Like we had some amazing adventures of like seeing the world, and I wouldn't have been able to do that because I had $755,000 of debt at my highest point. So I don't think I could have kept my wife on board with that plan that long because we would have been like, so we found this balance, which is the key word in OOLA, found this balance to be able to still enjoy life at some level while using the green gap to reduce the debt and increase investment and have a little for fun. So that's why that formula is so flippin' valuable, especially if your spouse you guys aren't on the same page with money, or you have a big, what feels like an insurmountable amount of debt. And because there's all kinds of formulas, I know what she's talking about, like I should say 15% for retirement and I need 30 to 40% for taxes. And it just seems like there's not any left. And many times there isn't. That's why you have to identify a gap, and just like a machine, you talk about a duplicatable process is a monthly budget. Then you'd look at what your gap is, then you maximize your gap. What can we do next month to increase income? What can we do to reduce expenses? Identify the gap, apportion your gap, 45 investment, 45 debt, and 10 for fun, and then you repeat. And that's just, we did that for years. And all of a sudden you wake up one day, and the cool thing is, it's not just reducing debt. At the same time you're reducing debt, you're seeing an investment portfolio go up, which gives you security, and you have this little bucket full of fun that you could take a trip or you could do something. You're not just sacrificing for 10 years. And it's really a valuable way of looking at this and still enjoying life with your family and your kids in those important years.
Which, just like what you said, is sustainable. I mean, any system can look fantastic from the outside, but if it's not humanly sustainable, then it's not sustainable, right? Then you just can't keep doing it. So that's the whole thing with Green Gap. You guys, whenever you said yes to wanting to be able to share this with other people, I hope you realize this is just one of the 7 things that's in OOLA coaching. Like whenever you become an OOLA coach, this is the type of stuff, these are the types of conversations that you get to have. Now, do you have to be an expert in this? Absolutely not. The framework essentially is built around you, and then you show up as who you are as the coach, you guys. Let's talk, let's get a little bit raw and real here. Let's talk about how are people, let's get if you guys are able to give some testimonials, just maybe flip it. I did not ask these guys this ahead of time. Okay. So they might even be like, oh my gosh, what's she asking me? But what kinds of careers are people doing or creating, or side gigs or whatever? What are you seeing people doing as OOLA coaches? I want people to see themselves in this role.
You know, we were traveling with the OOLA bus one time through Wisconsin, and there was this principal that was tweeting us and saying, hey, come to our school. And we're like, do we have time? Because we're trying to get to Minnesota for a book signing and all that stuff. And we looked, and it was 20 miles off the road, and that's like 45 minutes to an hour in the OOLA bus because it barely goes, 50 miles an hour. And we decided to go there, and we got there and we pulled up, and there was this huge school. There's about 500 students, 1st through 6th grade. And they had the solo cups. Of course, Wisconsin would have that. The solo cups in the fence that says, welcome OOLA. And we walked in, and the principal said, I'm so glad you're here with the bus. Come up on stage. And we walked into their cafeteria. We stood up on stage, and the back wall said the OOLA Wall of Awesomeness. And there's about 500 pictures that kids drew what their OOLA is on the wall. And we were up on stage, and we were talking. We said, you guys know what OOLA is. We didn't even know this school was teaching OOLA to their 1st through 5th graders. And there was one kid, Troy said, what is OOLA to you? And there's one kid that says, OOLA is like a fingerprint or a snowflake. It's different for everybody. And that's the exact same thing we're seeing with the coaches, is they're able to take this OOLA certification, and they're able to coach the people that they've always wanted to coach. So we have people that are coaching people that are just coming back from deployment. We have people that are coaching people that just went through a divorce. We have people that are coaching people in the military, emergency workers. We have people that are coaching people that just lost a child, that just recovered from cancer, that just got married, that, you know, that are 65 and empty nesting. So that's the coolest part about the coaching program, is that we build the framework. And whether you're talking to a 5th grader in Wisconsin, or you're talking to a cardiac anesthesiologist at Mayo Clinic down in Scottsdale, whatever it is, the framework is the same for everybody, because you're going through the 7 areas of life: fitness, finance, family, field, which is your career, faith, friends, and fun. Everybody's trying to balance that at all times. Then they go through these things called blockers, like fear, guilt, self-sabotage, angerness, laziness, which if you're going through a divorce, or you're now an empty nester, or you just recovered to cancer, or you just came back from deployment, you have to look at all 7 areas. You have to look at your blockers and accelerators. And our coaches, once you're certified, you're the expert guide in walking people through this framework. And what this framework produces is it produces what we call like the OOLA formula. If I went through the framework, I might go, okay, I need to work on my fitness and my finances. Guilt is getting in the way, and I need to embrace more wisdom. Troy could work through it and say, I need to work on my faith and my fun, and self-sabotage get in the way, and I need to embrace love. And what happens is it creates this beautiful formula that you sit back as a coach and you look like the expert, but you're also doing what you love to do because you're coaching people that you want to coach. So the whole program is you put your fingerprint on it. You put your personal brand on it. You piggyback your brand to OOLA, the global brand of OOLA, but you also put your fingerprint on the framework itself. And you decide who you want to work through this process, whether it's people in home-based businesses, whether it's teachers, whether it's children, whether it's teens, whether it's OOLA for kids, whatever it is, you get to decide you want to work for it. And that's the coolest part. So we're seeing coaches do all sorts of things. And a lot of coaches are taking their own personal testimonial of, I started OOLA and lost 160 pounds. And then I paid off my house, which is a coach in San Diego. And now she's taking other people and doing the same thing with them. Or I started OOLA and I learned about how to balance my life and win personally and professionally and build my home-based business. And now I want to coach other people in my home-based business. That's what we're seeing. And that's the coolest part, is that it's all over the board on whatever you're interested in. So
that's awesome.
So cool. The framework works for all ages and all different interests. And that's what I was talking about even with businesses, is you find something like, if I'm interested in finances, I could be a financial coach, but I talk globally about the person's life, not just so niche. If someone's a fitness coach, it's not just the perfect way to do a crunch and do an overhead press. It's like, hey, what's going on? If you really want to create relationship and value in someone's life, it's not so niche specific. It gives anyone. So if you're passionate about wellness, you're passionate about fitness, you're passionate about money, you're passionate about for single moms, whatever you're passionate about, you want to develop leadership. You have this framework that looks at the person as a person, like a whole person, and all of the things, the 7 key areas, the blockers that gets in everyone's ways, the accelerators we all need in our life, and you can drop their life in the framework. And Dave's talking about how it comes out with a different formula. It's not only a different formula per person, it's a different formula per year. So you create a relationship where you'll be their coach for life, because, I may be having to clean up my finances and my fitness. And then as a coach, you guide me through that. We revisit that in a year, like, that's pretty good, but now my relationship's struggling, or this is struggling. It's a moving target. It's just like that circus performer spinning 7 plates. And just once this one starts to wobble because it's finance, and because you lost your job and you get that going, but then you've taken your eye off your family and your health, and now and that's really what the coach does, is they're the eyes behind you saying, hey, that one's wobbling now. Let's go give that some love. And this one, like, many times we're coaching people like the uber wealthy, and all they can think about is more money. And they're on their fourth marriage and their kids don't talk to them and they're completely out of shape. So in that case, our job is like, you've been doing this on the money one, pause. Because are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Mm-hmm. And if you really break it down, they're not, because they're missing the other areas. They have no faith walk. Their kids don't talk to them. They're out of shape and they have no energy. And it's like, you can add more value when you take a holistic look at someone's life rather than just some specific interest like their business and their money. Important things, by the way, key things. So you definitely can coach on what you're interested in, but to fill in the gaps, you bring in this holistic look at everything that matters.
Absolutely. That's what Megan said. And she said it, of course, as I was thinking it, because that's just how Megan and I vibe. But she said, so basically OOLA and bat signal, which is bat signal is something that I teach, equals magic. And yes, that's exactly it. So your bat signal is that thing in you, like that drives you, the stuff that you've been through, the fires that you've phoenixed out of, right? That the stuff that flavors you and your being that nobody else has. And you put that bat signal out into the world, you bring your people in, and then you're able to coach those people with the OOLA framework. And all of a sudden we've got a ripple just jetting out into the world of people that are better, right? People that are better than before they met you. They're better than they were the day before. And the more that we can continue in this ripple of better people and better people and better people, because they affect the people around them, right? That's where the world literally starts to change. And I believe that it already is. I mean, if we're going to be very honest, I believe that it already is. But if you want to be a part of that change, if you want to be one of the catalysts, one of the people that are going out there and making this thing happen, whether it's part-time or full-time, however you want to begin it, that, and I believe you guys agree, is on your terms. However you want to begin this thing is completely on your terms. My suggestion, if you're feeling the nudge, so you know how I always talk about like the nudge and the tap, if you're feeling the nudge, you guys, right now of like, oh man, like go out there and do this thing, don't resist the nudge, okay? The link is in the comments. It's all over the place. I believe it's oolalife.com/Martha. That's where you're going to go. You're going to click on a button and you're going to set up a call to see if this is going to be a good fit for you. The call isn't to immediately sign up. If you want to, you can, but it's more of a conversation to see how it's going to work for you in your life. If it feels like a good fit, it's not going to feel salesy. It's not going to feel weird. You're not going to be put in like some sort of virtual headlock, right? It's going to be just a friendly conversation of, hey, are you a change maker? Are you a world changer? Are you somebody that loves, that wants to show up in this space, right? And then you'll just go through the conversation. If you want to sign up, you can. And if not, no big deal, right? But you guys, we have a mastermind. I don't know who knows about it. Let me know in comments if you know about this mastermind thing that we've got going on. It is on December 7th. It is going to be, like I keep calling it the mastermind to end all masterminds, and I think it's to begin all masterminds, but it's going to get you into a place where, because, and the way that Troy usually describes it is like, I think we're all done with 2020. We've all just had enough. It's going to get us into a place where you are going to be able to plan out your 2021. You're going to be able to move into 2021 with purpose, with drive, with intention, with a blueprint, with a guide of what you are going to do in this world. I'm going to tell you guys right now, time's up on us just letting life happen to us. Time's up on that, okay, you guys? It's time for us to show up in what we're here to do. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to be, you know, like the president or anything like that. We need to show up in our communities in a way that positively impacts the world. Time's up on sitting on the couch and watching Netflix, you guys, okay? It's time for us to show up. And if you're feeling the nudge, just go oolalife.com/Martha, click on the button to set up a call and just do it, okay, and have the call and see what happens. Talk about the mastermind, you guys. Let's talk.
I think the coolest.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the coolest part, Martha, is what you said about the world is changing in a good way. You said you're feeling it. We talk about that a lot. It's starting to happen. And that's why people are attracted to OOLA, attracted to your message, because people first of all, they're sick of the way it's been. They're sick of the way it's going. They're sick of being punked financially. They're sick of being punked on their faith, their finances, their family, their relationships, toxic relationships, drama. So they're sick of it. And they're sick of it to the point where it's starting to change. And a lot of people are saying, I want something better for not only myself, but my kids and the world. And that's where people are getting on board with doing that. And you can't passively sit by on the couch and watch Netflix and think 2021 is going to be different than 2020. If you're not happy with where you are, you have to start taking the steps to make those changes. And you're going to wake up in a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. Imagine being where you want to be exactly, or imagine being 5, 10, 15% worse than where you are now. So it really comes up to taking that first step, that first action step of saying, you know what? I know I'm designed by God for greatness and a purpose. I'm designed for something better than what I have right now. I'm designed to leave a legacy for my kids, my family, my friends, the community, make the world a better place. I want to be part of changing the world as the world is changing in a positive way. I want to be part of that. And it starts with that first action step. And, whatever, two other things that you talked about, Martha, is that call with one of our advisor coaches. It's just that. It's an advisor coach to see if this is a good fit for you, if you're a good fit for OOLA, if this is something that is going to be something that, you could talk about your ideas. I want to teach home-based businesses. I want to be more of a better leader. I want to teach kids. Their job is to kind of see, is that going to work with the framework and everything? Is it a good fit? But then the other thing, if you decide you're going to be a coach and you get to that mastermind, that is where we sit down and we take a day on December 7th and we plan out 2021 so that you do have a blueprint. And life is more important than building a house. And when you sit down to build a house, you have plans, plumbing, electrical, concrete, roof, everything. And let's put together a plan or a blueprint for 2021 in all 7 areas. So, going into 2021, where are you with your fitness, your health? What are your dreams? What are your goals, your finances, your family, your career? All 7 areas. What's holding you back? What's been getting in the way over all these years? And you take all of that and you wrap in Martha's personal development and brand, everything she's going to be teaching you. You're going to go into 2021 with a plan like you've never had before. And I'm super excited for that day, because I think I'm super excited for that day, but I'm also super excited for 1, 3, 6 months later when people say, holy cow, this is where I am now. And where I am now is a lot different than where I was in October when I decided to do this. And that's what I'm really cool. I'm really, really excited to hear those stories.
I think this is perfect timing for this event, but I think if someone's feeling that nudge you're talking about to be a coach, the perfect way to do that is to do it sooner rather than later, because use this time between now and the mastermind to pour into you. So the most beautiful thing, if the only benefit you got from certification, which you're going to get more, but the only benefit you got was you understood this framework in a way that you could live it in your own life to yield results in a way that would mirror it to your kids, who would see how you're now behaving and emulate and look at how you're doing and mimic it in a way that, hey, now I'm this way with that. Now I'm this way with activity and fitness. And now I'm this way with my relationship. If the only thing you did is improve your own life with the formula, that would be amazing. But once you fill yourself up, once you understand the formula and you actually see the formula working in your own life, and you're feeling more balanced in life and you're feeling less stress, and you finally feel like you're doing something of purpose, and then you show up on that mastermind, and now is when you can, because you're full, you can pour out to other people. Our goal is to change the world with a word, and it really starts simply with you being a better version of you. And by them understanding the framework and applying it, they'll see the improvement, and then they'll say finally, like, okay, now I have to, this is what Dave and I feel like, how we have this secret, it feels like it's like we have this thing that if people understood that if they looked at their life holistically, if they looked at the 7 areas and they avoided blockers, it could be dramatically different, and we have to share it with people. And that's what coaches feel. So if you go through the certification before, show up at this mastermind with this entire group. This is perfect timing. I mean, to plan out 2021 and then take what you've learned and reinforce that and apply it to other people in something that you're like personally passionate about. That would be the perfect way to build that multiple stream. Is like, take some time to don't rush through. Sometimes people rush through the certification. They send me a note like, I'm already through. I'm like, I'm not that impressed. Digest this, like study this, learn this, apply this. And the timing is perfect between now and and December 7th, and then take the mastermind to reinforce it and map out your personal 2021. And then you'll be ready to pour this into other people.
Yes. Boom. Somebody was asking, how can I and other current OOLA coaches from HBR join the mastermind? There is a link. I don't have the link on me right now. But there is a link to be able to get that. I can get that to you guys in HBR. There's a link to be able to do that. All right. Well, shoot. What else we got? Oh my gosh, we're 5 minutes over. I wasn't even looking at the time. You guys, let's talk about next week. So we are going into field. So you guys may have been like, oh no, they're done. No, we're not done. We're not done. So next Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What are we talking about, you guys?
So we're pulling in, the framework, the 7 apps, the blockers, the accelerators. We've been talking about finance for three weeks now, and we're going to go into field. And Martha, I think you're going to shine in this one. But
because we're talking about fields and she's from Iowa, or what are we?
Yeah. Cornfields.
Yeah.
Cornfields. But field is your career. It's what you dedicate your life to. This is going to be super fun. We're going to do a 3-part series. Troy loves finance, so he was able to talk a lot. Martha, this is going to be a lot. I'll bring in. Troy's going to talk about this a lot. Here are the 3 topics that we're throwing around right now. 1, the bridge, moving from your day job to your dream job. 2, the brand, pulling it all together and going all in on your personal brand. I think you're pretty good at that, Martha. I'm not sure. I think you're really good at that.
All right.
And then the flow, and that's developing multiple streams of income around your personal brand to create security and financial freedom, which will actually pull back some of the green gaps, some of the multiple middle finger money, some of the wealth. We'll pull all that back in that point. And then we'll see where we go. We have blockers, we have fear, we have mindset. We could do a big mindset piece. This is going to be fun leading up to the mastermind. We're going to have a good time.
Oh man, I'm so geeked. This is going to be awesome. Oh, you guys, I hope you all understand how cool this is and how invaluable this is. And have lots of notes and all of the things. If you are feeling the nudge, click on the link right now. Stop goofing around. Just click on the link, set up a time, and then go grab a cup of coffee or something, right? Just get it out of your system. Do it. Go grab a cup of coffee. Just set up your time and do it. If you're not feeling the nudge yet, then don't do anything, right? Whenever you feel the nudge, you'll know it. It will be like, oh man, maybe I should do that. That's what it feels like. It's like that. I can kind of see myself doing that, even if it's just for a split second. That's what a nudge is. Okay, you guys? All right. So I will see you guys next week. Dave and Troy, I'll see you guys next week also. I'm sure we'll talk in between. And let's talk about, what is the first one again? Bridge, day job, the dream job.
This is a good one too, because Martha, we see a lot of people that are like, I'm sick of my job. I'm quitting Monday. And they have no plan, no emergency fund, no plan. Yeah. The bridge is the most important part. So we're going to talk about how to build that bridge to go from where you are today to where you want to go in your career.
Nice. Boom. We'll see you guys next week.
See you later.
Bye-bye.